My name is Alex Hussein, and I'm an intern here at the Center for Community Transformation. I recently graduated from Fresno Pacific, and over the last year or so, I've just come to know and love social enterprise, and so I'm glad you all have been able to get a glimpse of that, of social enterprise here today. So the name of the conference, SoEnt 17, starts with a hashtag. What we're trying to do is kind of brand this already existing movement that's come from a global movement and has really found its way in Fresno. It was launched by former Mayor Ashley Swearingen asking this question about what the role is of faith leaders and faith institutions in the economic well-being of our community, especially considering the level of concentrated poverty that Fresno faces. And from there was a discovery of a lot of social enterprise models and how these nonprofits and churches and community benefit organizations can bring agents of change into their community. So from there, a lot of that research was put into a work of our hands book, and that book is available still. You can find it over at the Center for Community Transformation table. And then after that led to a work of our hands summit, which is what this summit used to be once a year, gathering the faith leaders. And then from there, it went into a business plan workshop, which takes place in May. We have one upcoming May 25th with the wonderful Andrew Shin will be walking through. If you have a business idea or just kind of thinking through some things or really just love to learn about how to make a business plan, he is the guy to hear from, and you can find this flyer with this info over at the CCT table. And from there, it moves into the Spark Tank, which happens in September. So this is a pitch fest for aspiring social entrepreneurs, again, from churches, nonprofits, community benefit organizations that are looking to start somewhere to gain some seed funding and launch their idea. So far we've launched over 31 social enterprises here in the Central Valley, and there's been a need of a non-charity approach to poverty in addition to already the charity that is taking place here in our valley, but we've needed other solutions to help all of the efforts that are taking place. And so the goal with Spark Tank was to find sustainable and systemic change through social enterprise. And just a side note, if you're here and you kind of like what's going on here at hashtag SoEnt 17, you like hearing everything about what the Center for Community Transformation is doing, you could consider being an intern next year if you're a student, or if you know somebody who you think would be interested, you can definitely send them our way. And my experience here as an intern has been fantastic. I would highly recommend it. And so you can chat with Mr. Randy here or anybody at the Center for Community Transformation for more information on that. So this morning we got to hear from Brian File a little bit about his story and his take on social enterprise and its presence here in Fresno. And a little bit recap again on what social enterprise is. We got the triple bottom line. So you have first, like all businesses, profitability and sustainability. So are we making enough money to keep going? Like the quote from Sister Irene Krauss said, "No margin, no mission." So we can't continue our mission and continue to make the impact that we're seeking if we can't afford to keep doing it, if we don't bring in the right amount of revenue and profits to keep making that happen. And equally important is the social impact component of social enterprises. And this is summed up well by a great quote from Father Greg Boyle, that nothing stops a bullet like a job. And although those might not be directly correlated all the time, there seems to be something that happens in a community when there's more jobs available, more hope and opportunities for people, and they're able to creatively express that through their work. And then the third component is environmental stewardship, which reminds us of the Gandhi quote that earth provides enough for every man's needs, but not for every man's greed. And so it's about not only being responsible with our resources and everything that we use, but also making efforts to actually improve our environment. And like we talked about this morning, social enterprise is a little bit of the best of a nonprofit and a for-profit kind of together at the same time. You have the heart and the mission of the nonprofit, and also the sustainability and the scalability of a for-profit kind of blended together into one piece. And then after Brian, we got to have some awesome workshops where we heard from business heroes like Jake Sobral, Tim Getz, AP Armour, Carolyn Ochiltree, Eddie Valero, and Dave Ediger. So if you went to one of those workshops, go ahead and give them a hand. Let's see. Yeah, thank you very much. And some of us got to hear from faith leaders, and someone called them faith legends here, like Randy White, Phil Sky, Lauren DeBerkey, Addie Carr, Vicky Ponches, and Carlos Huerta. So if you were able to hear from one of them, let's go ahead and give them a hand as well. And we were blessed to have a number of gifted teachers here, serving as business professors here in our Fresno area. Those consisted of Amber Blakey and Andrew Shin, Matt Alanis, John Mueller, and Renee Chu Jacoby. So let's go ahead and give them a hand as well, please. So many of us have met new people here. We've made new connections. So I would just encourage you guys, you have these new connections, use them. Contact these people, visit their organizations, find ways where you can get involved for your next step and also to help them on their next step. It's kind of a reciprocity thing here in our community. So here we are for session number 2. Just a reminder that we're utilizing Slido.com. If you're new here, go ahead and open your phone to Slido.com. And what you'll find is a list of questions that audience members have posted. And the questions with the most likes or thumbs up get placed at the top. And so there will be a Q&A session led by Miguel Bermudez at the end of Brian's session. And so he'll be asking questions based off of the questions that you guys have posted. So the code, once you go to Slido.com, the code is 559. And then you'll find the hashtag SoEnt 17 event right there. So I'd like to introduce Brian again. He is a social enterprise guru here in Fresno. And he's currently serving as the CEO of Lana Coffee. And his heart and experience in social enterprise have definitely made him the perfect choice for our first annual hashtag SoEnt conference speaker. So please welcome Brian File.
Thank you, Alex. Great to be with you all again. This is happening. Awesome. Well, thanks for recapping for us, Alex, some of the breakouts. I know that I had an amazing time being able to sit in on a handful of them and really glean some information. Andrew Shin's, his breakout on how to do with little money was actually a really inspiring, some inspiring nuggets there and how to leverage selling to people without having the product and getting purchase orders and then fulfilling that order and being able to continually reinvest into the business. I thought there's some brilliant ideas. I would encourage you to connect, as Alex did, with just any of those workshop presenters that you feel like you can continue to glean information from. This session, my goal is to kind of get in a little bit deeper into some other non-traditional ways that enterprises can interact with social enterprises and create partnerships with one another where it's mutually beneficial. So let's look at this model, which I thought was super encouraging and even inspiring for Lana and partnerships that we can build within our local community. So here's one between Ben & Jerry's Ice Cream and a bakery called Grayston Bakery, which is in Yonkers, New York. So which makes this partnership really amazing is that Ben & Jerry's needed to source brownies for their ice cream, right? And sure, they could probably have a huge bakery, a big shop produce these things as just a part of their line of what was already created. But because their values as a business really drive their products and they want to be known for quality above all else, they've been able to partner with a bakery called Grayston that creates jobs in an underserved community in Yonkers that helps their employees with various social aspects such as affordable housing, childcare, community gardens, and workforce development. And they're really able to highlight this nonprofit. Actually, I think the bakery is a for-profit, but it exists as a social enterprise. And together, they're better with each other. So Ben & Jerry's is able to utilize Grayston Bakery as a proud partner, and that puts Grayston Bakery on a huge national scale that they probably would not have had otherwise. And so this is a really out-of-the-box idea, and it's something that I think we can continue to work and add value to one another by building partnerships. Maybe it's a dairy or a large employer here in the Valley that needs jobs, and there's a way that kind of the social enterprise and the helping its local community can kind of benefit from one another. So that was a really neat model. This is another one that I thought is pretty unique. How many of you guys have heard of Homeboy Industries? Yeah, a lot of us, right? And so they were started down in Southern California through a quote that Alex had of nothing prevents a bullet like a job, is they create various enterprises. I think they've got a salsa company. They've got a cafe. And they have some huge, A-list celebrities that are probably helping to fund a lot of what they're doing. I know I've read stories of Diane Keaton eating at the bakery, and because they're in that Los Angeles world. But what they have recently done is they acquired and raised money to buy an electronic recycling company. And they didn't let anybody know how much that purchase price was, but it's their first step into trying to see what would it look like for a nonprofit to help operate and run this for-profit entity, but they're set up as separate entities, right? The electronic recycling company doesn't have the tax benefits that a nonprofit does, but the goal is to kind of be a feeder system for Homeboy Industries into this world. And so they recently purchased the recycling business and operate as a for-profit. And part of the model that they're completely transparent with is that Homeboy Industries understands that they need to operate their businesses with 2 to 3 times the labor. And so that, unfortunately, leads to increased, not sustainability, right? They are not, if they do not have that extra revenue, they're not able to run their enterprises. But this is a step for them, and it's showing that this is a movement where there's value in having a bottom line that has to be sustainable and profitable. So one of the interesting ideas, and I think we've touched on quite a bit here, is the idea of, well, which one's better, right? Do we go with a nonprofit that seeks to be a community benefit organization? And there's a lot of advantages to that. There's tax benefits. There's ability to accept revenue from corporations that need tax write-offs. And there's also a for-profit goal, right, where you're able to extend equity to people. And you're able to raise money, similar to what we see always on the Shark Tank, where you have an evaluation, you get someone to help fund you for that percentage, and now you've got capital to play with. And if you lose it, you lose the capital and you don't owe it to anybody. That's part of what it costs to run that business. And so there's 2 different models. And I think what really needs to be considered is what's the goal? And what do we need to do as an entity to create clarity for us to meet our goal? So to share a little bit about our own experience, Lana Coffee was a nonprofit. And so someone had donated some significant cash, because every time we have to buy coffee beans from Thailand, it's a $95,000 expense. And so that's a lot of capital, right? And I don't personally just have $95,000 sitting in the bank. And so we took some investment for that as a nonprofit to buy those beans with the goal of paying them back, right? But what we really realized was that the nonprofit had 2 different things happening. One was that it sought to create donations, to do a golf tournament, to raise money, to then send back over to our partner in Thailand, right? So we would get $20, $30, $40, $50,000 donations, and every year maybe we'd send $100, $150, $200,000 over to our partners in Thailand who have the coffee co-op and do all the amazing work. And then all the while, this entity is also trying to sell coffee and is trying to pay employees and trying to operate sustainably. And so looking back on that, I think the goals of the entity weren't as clearly defined as I think we would have liked them to be. So what we ended up doing was keeping the nonprofit intact. So it's called the Lana Foundation. If anybody plays golf, we have a golf tournament on Monday, by the way. So Lana Foundation works alongside Lana Coffee Co., which took all of the coffee company out and created a new entity with the goal of seeking profitability to send money and to make profit to send back to Thailand. And for us, it really was a method of creating clarity. Being a nonprofit for us acted more like a crutch to the entity rather than a launching point. And so it was unclear because we had taken some donations in, whether that money was intended to help cover green beans or do we send it back to Thailand. And so it kind of acted as a crutch for us. However, what's really amazing is that the social mission and the goal of the Lana Coffee Company hasn't changed. We still exist to buy directly from our farmers, bring it here into Fresno, roast downtown, and distribute. But the goal and the ability to make profits, send money back to directly create clean water is exactly the same. But we've realized, like, no margin, no mission. I think that's brilliant, and I'm going to hold on to that one and put it in my back pocket. That's exactly the truth. And I think oftentimes as an entity, trying to know what to charge is a challenge, right? We just had to increase some of our wholesale prices, and we send out an email, and I get worried that people are going to say, "Sorry, we're walking away. It's too expensive now." But I only heard from 2 customers, and other people get the vision of our goal is to create better lives for our farmers, and that costs money for us to be able to operate. And so I think that is a really practical part of what we're seeking to do. And then the other goal is, what is it? Do we want to be grant funded? Do we have connections with foundations or endowments or entities that are able to give us money, or do we want to try to create it? And so creating the clarity in those ideas really is helpful because it may tell us one way or the other. If I want to be able to accept volunteers with volunteer agencies that are national, probably being a for-profit isn't the best model, right? Because it's not set up for people who have certain contingencies on donating their time or linked with schools or education. And so I think the idea is that we need to be clear about what we want to do and where we want to go. I had an opportunity to kind of just highlight a couple ideas of what might be the benefits between going for a for-profit or nonprofit. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time, but here's just a couple ideas. So the benefits for a for-profit is that you're able to find investors and equity partners. It can be simpler to get started and less expensive. Sometimes with a nonprofit, it creates a lot of time, and you have to send a lot of documents to the Board of Equalization for taxes and the IRS for why you deserve a nonprofit status, and sometimes have to prove that. And it can be a very lengthy process. So that's an advantage to becoming a for-profit. You can get a sole proprietorship very quickly by talking to the county and talking to the city. But the idea is for benefits to be a nonprofit, you can find grant funds. Maybe as startup capital, there's a lot of opportunity for entities to get kind of that startup capital loan. No income taxes, which is also a nice thing. And then volunteer and donations. It doesn't have to be true, as I kind of shared in the first session, that Lana Coffee Co. uses volunteers on a regular basis, and we are extremely thankful for people who are able to catch the vision, who want to give of their time and help us to pack and produce our product. One of the things that has always stuck with me from a mentor of mine is when we were making the transition from a nonprofit to a for-profit. I kept using the word sustainable, and I was like, we have to stop, losing so much cash, and we have to put a Band-Aid on it, and I was like, we need to be sustainable, and a mentor of mine said, no, we can't just be sustainable, we need to be profitable. And that kind of like set the tone for like, not that this is the reason why we exist, but we can't do the things that we want to do if we don't have profit. As anybody who knows who runs a business, it's expensive to take care of employees. It's expensive to want to pay them well and to want to see them be able to provide for their kids. It's expensive, and we need profit to be able to offer health insurance. And those are all things that we want as employees, but as we're employers, it's a challenge to get to those points. And so I've had to reset my mind in a lot of ways of thinking like, this isn't like profit at the end of the day or just this month, if I look at it in a small picture, it's not the reason why we exist. If we didn't make profit last month, which we didn't, I need to find that, there's a bigger picture here. Like, we still bought 5,000 pounds of green beans that we sold to people who love this coffee and who are catching the vision. And so I think that's a challenge as business operators that we have to continue to look at. And of course, it's not all rainbows and butterflies, right? Anybody ran their own business? Yeah, it's a challenge, and it's it can be an emotional beatdown, and I think that it should not go unnoticed and not go untold. That there's a big weight, I think, that lands on those who are running businesses' shoulders. Whether you're the executive director of that social enterprise or you're the owner of a company, you have paychecks that need to get out, and there's sleep that is lost when vendors switch from our coffee and go to another, or there's fear of not being able to continue to operate maybe the next year. And so I think it's building that in, and I think as entrepreneurs, we are by definition risk takers, and so I think that we have to keep that in mind and look at the big picture. But some of the challenges I think that are really worth noting is it's a team effort. Lana Coffee Co. is not Brian File, and Brian File is not Lana Coffee Co., and this is a community effort. And that's one of the things that I'm not sure if I mentioned in the first session, but the Central Valley is right with the soil because our community cares, and our community wants to back things. When we did a grand opening at our Lana Coffee facility, I was just amazed at those who were in such support of seeing downtown buildings that are boarded up turn into coffee roasting warehouses and want to see us succeed. We ended up opening up our warehouse, and then people kept walking in every couple hours, and so we ended up putting a rack of coffee there, and we're like, okay, well, maybe we should throw some t-shirts there, and now we've got some mugs, and it's just amazing, I think, how people want to support local business, and we're excited to support others. I think another challenge is how to begin, right? It seems very daunting, and it seems very challenging of what are my steps, and what do I need to do? But I think sometimes the fear of what we need to do can paralyze us from just beginning. And that's what I think at the end of the day, our hope here is that, hopefully somebody in this room is going to create something that's going to change somebody's life tomorrow. Am I right? Is somebody going to do that? Yes. Awesome. And I think that can be a challenge, but I don't think it needs to be debilitating. And I think that we can collectively figure out who needs to talk to who to make it happen. And another thing, failures will abound. Expect it and don't let it slow you down. Failures between either a customer buying a product or having to shut something down. Just a personal experience from AP and I. We started Neighborhood Thrift, and then maybe 3 years after Olive, we decided, maybe the model is that we need to start satellite stores, right? It's hard to reach different communities in Fresno and get them to come, so maybe we need to go to them. And so we started a 3,000 square foot store, and within 7 months realized that we have been at a loss every single month for those months. And we're hopeful, we want to keep going, but we ended up with an amazing board of directors deciding that it was less expensive for us if we just close the doors and turn off the lights rather than keep trying to operate. And so paying the rent and paying utilities, but it also meant that we had to let somebody go, an individual who we had trained up, got employed, got him to launch his own store, and that's a heavy thing, and it was a challenge, and it was a sober reality to realize that we had to shut that store down, but ultimately it gave us an increased fire to bring all that clothing, all those racks back, and how do we make our olive store the best thing that's ever existed. And so how do we turn failures ultimately into success? And so those will happen. And so I think if we anticipate it, we're probably just better for it. And so I think the last thing is there's no substitute for hustle. I think somebody asked me, like, how would you define the first year of this transition of a business? And hustle was the word. For the first year and a half, it was just me and a 30-hour-a-week part-time employee who, as soon as he finished shipping orders, I'd be like, all right, it's time to get off the clock because we cannot physically pay you anymore. And so I was running out doing events, and I was out having to ship product if he took the day off and something came in and a customer really needed it, as well as trying to write checks and learn how to balance a business account. That was the first thing I did, was bring in a part-time bookkeeper, but there was no money to do that. And so Neighborhood Thrift let us operate out of their old warehouse where we didn't have budget for a rent, and so we were able to make strokes as we had. And there's just, I think hustle is the name of the game, and that's just part of that challenge, is knowing that we've got to be prepared for that. And I think part of the first part is the team effort, is that I've realized it's not just something that I'm committed to. It's also something that my wife has to be committed to, and my 2 kids have to be committed to. I have a darling 1-year-old girl, Cora, and a 3.5-year-old little boy, Reed, and they're just as much a part of this business as I am, because I take Reed to go fill orders for cold brew on Sunday mornings if a customer runs out, and I think just knowing that, to have a supportive spouse, whether you're a male or a female and your spouse is a male or a female, and he might be staying at home, like, he's just a part of this as anybody else. And so be prepared for those challenges. False assumptions, right? I think that this is something that can stop people from beginning. My mind spins all the time, and I'm like, well, what's the new thing for Lana Coffee? What do we need to start looking at? And I think the idea is that always there has to be a brand new idea. We have to create something that's never been done before. But I think as we're seeing all of these social enterprises, we realize that that's not true, right? A thrift store is not new. Thrift stores have been around for hundreds of years, but the way that we operate that thrift store and the way that its clientele and its customers and those who work within Neighborhood Thrift and it's managed, it's its own unique beast. And I think that's the same. Whether it's a yard gardening service or a moving company, like Moving On Up, or a bakery or a cafe, I think that the idea is that we don't have to always be waiting for the one great idea that's in existence. And I think we need to encourage each other to don't just wait for that, but to make something happen. The other thing, I have to do it by myself, right? I have a lot of skills that I am proud of and excited about, but there's just as much, if not more, that I don't know how to do. And so being able to find those individuals who can counteract your skill sets is really going to be the level to be able to take a business or an enterprise to that next level. I could do certain things with the Neighborhood Thrift, but until AP came on board and built systems, there's no way we would have been able to grow with the growth that we were able to have. And I think, lastly, that it takes a lot of money to begin. Start small, start with less risk, and prove your concept. I think cold brew for Lana Coffee was a great example of that I took 5 customers and said, will you take a case of cold brew? And they said, yeah, we'll try that. And so we gave them cold brew. 3 days later, all of them were gone. I'm like, oh, okay, well, will you take another few? And I think the idea that we just have to start small, test the market, before we just go and sink $5,000 or $10,000 into that. I was recently watching something with Tom's Shoes, and the founder, Blake, said that he started with an investment of $5,000. And Tom's Shoes, I think it was last year, had a gross revenue of $392 million. That's a miracle. And I think he has this book called Start Something That Matters, that's a really neat little book, but it highlights like method cleaning products. Before she got her first big contract, I think she had $16 in the bank, and so perseverance and hustle is kind of the name of the game there. So finally, as we wrap up, at least on my speech, I know we've got a few things left. What's next for you? Well, who's that person that you need to email or connect with? Who's the community that you just want to dream about? You know, if I can help and be a part of that, and you want to come down to Lana and we can make a latte and dream of what that future could be, I would love to be a part of that, because really it's all about cultivation here in the Central Valley and supporting one another. What's the one thing that you think the city should be better for? Is it tackling a social problem that just drives you nuts and you keep thinking, man, why isn't somebody going to do something about that? I think that the answer is if you look in the mirror and you realize if you don't do it, no one else probably will. And we have to think big within that world. How might you catch your vision? How might catch? All right, that doesn't make sense. How might you catch the vision? I can't read it now. How might catch your vision and come alongside? Who? Sorry, guys. So, I'm tired. So who might catch that vision? I think that there's churches that may be willing to invest, and there's companies and entities that might be willing to be a part and build that relationship with you. Sometimes I'm surprised about the mission budgets that churches are able to impact and make a difference. The Well Community Church, for example, they gave a total, within 2 years, they gave $75,000 to neighborhood industries. And at this point, it's grossed over $5 million within the Tower community within almost a decade. And talk about an investment. That's an investment that just literally keeps on giving. And I think we can easily be a part of that as well. Now is the time to really start something. I think it's the time to think about what you can create and how you can use business to impact the community, to ultimately to make it thrive. And I think that we need each other, and there's opportunities that abound. And so my ask for you guys is just to say yes and to commit to making something happen within the social enterprise world, be it nonprofit, for-profit. I think the time is now, and we're excited to journey together on that. Thank you.
Awesome. So it's so great to be having you again, Brian. Such an amazing session. So one question that I have for you is, were you ready to start, or how did you start? And how do you feel now that you see yourself here?
Yeah, I don't think that we were ever really ready to start. I guess neighborhood industries, but then Lana too. I don't think we felt ready, but I think we felt believed in, and we felt that, within the Well providing money to us, it was not like if this doesn't happen, we're going to be disappointed, or like the failure was really high. I think it was, we're going to give this a shot. We want you guys to be prepared, and we will guide you through for the first little while. But I think just feeling like there was a support system that believed in us. The first couple of years, we didn't have handbooks. We had individuals show up to neighborhood thrift who had probably just finished a 40-ounce beer in the parking lot, and they were not ready to work. And we didn't know what to do with that, but I think, we just continued to try to make the best decisions that we could, and sometimes that meant letting somebody go and say, come back to us when you're ready, or picking up kind of pieces and trying to figure out what was next. But even within Lana Coffee Co., I've never, because of neighborhood industries, we never really dealt with having to pay for a product per se, but like having to pay and having the cost of goods was a whole nother realm for me. But I think that was a part of the excitement too, to figure that out.
Awesome, thanks. So we're using Slido just again for a reminder for those who are here. And one of the questions that we have is, what could students be doing now to connect to social enterprises? So what were your first steps to being connected with the people who you know now or your community? What advice would you be giving to students here that are wanting to start something, but how do they start something?
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea of just showing up, as AP always says, is probably some of the best advice ever. It's just, if something seems like it's something you want to be a part of, like, don't let yourself be talked out of that. Just commit to it and say yes and give yourself into something. And I think you'll be surprised as what doors open. I mean, I feel like I was one of the luckiest men alive to be able to have, like, the well and someone say, like, go for it. Because would I trust somebody, like, on the other side? And now I have to, like, question it. I'd be like, yeah, I think I have to, because I was at 22, 23 was given that opportunity. And I think we have to invest into that next generation and individuals who want to start something. Yeah, I mean, I encourage just to find an internship, or I mean, we would love to have individuals kind of walk alongside us in the business. And we just had a couple high school students from CART High School volunteer with us and learn about business, learn about why we do what we get to do. And in high school, they're getting exposed to social enterprise, and I think that's pretty amazing. I didn't get that opportunity, or I didn't say yes to that opportunity like many people have now. So I think it's just to do something and to show up somewhere and just keep doing that till you feel ready.
Yeah. Awesome. And so our third question is, what is the tipping point that determines a business is a social enterprise versus for-profit? So, like, for example, in the journey of Lana Coffee, like how you were mentioning, it used to be a nonprofit, but then it shifted into a for-profit. You also shared how in a sense, a tipping point was to be profitable, sustainable, but to also be efficient. What other factors did it make Lana Coffee just shift towards a for-profit? Was it the longevity, or was it just the need at the current time?
Yeah, I mean, I think the board of the nonprofit was really faced with the idea of like so the individual who was running Lana before me was moving out of the city, and so they came in front of the board and was like, what do we do? Do we keep trying to do this model that we've seen is hard, or do we, like, revision it, refocus, and let it do like give it some new life? And so I think that was the tipping point of, like, realizing, with a lot of money in debt, knowing and facing, I guess, the brutal facts of reality that this has not proven itself to be marketable as it currently is. And so that for me meant that we had to just, like, press reset. So we ended up, starting over with staff, and the individuals who were hired before, there just wasn't the budget to do it. And so we had to kind of put pause, get a fresh rethink, and then, kind of just flip the organization upside down. We rebranded, we got new bags, new packaging, new logos, new roasts, new profiles. So from the inside out, the business had to kind of be, re-looked at.
And so for our last question, having to run a business, having to run a nonprofit, having to run a for-profit involves a lot of effort, involves a lot of resources. But what's your core motivation? For Lana Coffee, seeing the millions of lives being impacted through the well-being in Thailand and in other places. Aside from that, what also motivates you to just continue this vision and the mission that Lana Coffee has?
Yeah, that's a great question, Miguel. I think, it's challenging. There's internal motivations and there's external motivations. Internal motivations is that, like, whatever I put my hands to, I want to succeed. And so there's that tenacity or that drive that doesn't want to fail. And so I think there's like an inner thing happening there. But there's obviously, like, I've never sought after a sales position, right? Or like never felt like that was exactly where I wanted to go. But I've realized like that's part of who I am and what I believe in now. It's like I don't just feel like I'm selling a bag of coffee to someone because like I want them to buy my product and I want to be able to pay payroll next week. Like I genuinely believe that we deliver a great product that changes lives, and if I'm withholding that from someone, then I'm doing the villagers in Thailand a disservice. And so I think, yeah, that's kind of multifaceted in that sense of my personality. I'm a big Enneagram believer. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of that personality test, but yeah, and so that has been like a big self-discovery thing for me.
Wow. Well, thank you so much,
Yes.
Brian, for your time. And just to be finishing.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks,
you so
Miguel.
much.
Yes.
So I'd like to invite Austin as well to the stage. And so Austin and Miguel have been part of the planning team for hashtag SoEnt here, and they are currently two awesome students here at President Pacific. And so I just kind of want to ask them some questions about their experience and what they're interested in, so you guys can get some student perspective, whether you're a student or a community member. So yeah, you guys are students right now. Why does social enterprise interest you, and why do you guys think it's important?
Yeah, it's been very interesting to me and exciting as well, because it's not just like a crutch for social injustices, like throwing money at people. As Brian said, there's a time and place for that, but it's not just giving them a crutch, it's actually helping people be able to be empowered and fight these problems on their own without the use of someone with millions of dollars to help them out. That's what's been exciting for me.
Yeah, so for myself, I would just say that we just see so much need around our society, within our community, and trying to make an effort to be able to change that and to start something new, to provide resources, to provide hope. For me personally, just being in the planning committee has been like just such an amazing experience to be able to see, to be able to hear all of the amazing works that many different companies are doing here in Fresno, in the Valley, and just to see that, you know, something great's going to continue to happen. And so, yeah.
Awesome, thank you guys. And you know, you guys have started to get involved, so what are some ways that you guys think students can get involved, you know, based on your experience and other things that you might be hoping to do?
Well, there's a lot of great community leaders for social enterprises here, so there's plenty of opportunities to connect with people here that are doing great works already. And then also, you know, on campus we have the CCT in North Hall, so that's a great resource to get connected with plenty of social enterprises here in the Fresno area.
Yeah, so I would also say just to share your ideas, share your heart, share your passion to those around you, to your family members, for the students also, to the professors, to be able to gain an insight on where to go and which path to take. And just also in the various community spaces that you are involved in, just to get plugged in, just walk in like how Brian was saying, just to go and grab a latte and just grab a coffee and just, you know, converse and conversate what you want to do. And so, yeah.
Awesome, thank you guys so much. Let's give them a hand. So we'll wrap up here with some final resources for everyone. If you guys are looking for other ways to get involved, you know, there's a lot of great things that Austin and Miguel mentioned. First, you can start by, you know, as you head outside, there's a number of fantastic booths out there. Some of them are existing social enterprises, some of them are community benefit organizations that are involved in this sort of thing. Just start developing those relationships, like they said, and find maybe one area that's most interesting to you and just kind of go all out into that and start hustling that direction. There's also a lot of books and various resources. If you're looking for somebody to, hey, I'm interested in this subject and I don't know the book, I think Randy is kind of the encyclopedia there of the right book to read for various interests that you guys may have, especially on this subject. So come to the Center for Community Transformation table, and we have a number of our own books, but also other books that we've read that have inspired us to bring us to where we are here today. There's also events coming up like the Business Plan Workshop, like I mentioned before, on May 25th with Andrew. If you guys know anybody who's interested or maybe thinks, you know, I have this idea, but I don't think I could ever do it. You know, there's so many people that could benefit from this event. And there's also the Spark Tank coming up. You could attend just start to get more of a taste of it, or you could even pitch yourself. It's an excellent challenge. You have a couple months to kind of come up with a social need to meet and an idea to meet that with. So also something to look out for, we got a couple cool things in the works. We're developing a little bit of a focus towards youth as well, so somewhat of like a youth spark tank or a youth program to help young people get involved in entrepreneurship, get involved in social enterprise, and begin to get connected solving issues through this. And so be on the lookout for a youth-oriented sort of spark tank model. And also be on the lookout for a social enterprise accelerator and academy that we are in the process of developing. We have a great network of people that have come around us, and we are starting to really see what this could look like as a way to fully resource all of these social enterprises that we're trying to launch into our communities to really increase their capacity to increase their impact. So it's really something that we are working hard on and really excited about for the future here, and I think the Center for Community Transformation is going to have a big role in that. If you are thinking, maybe entrepreneurship isn't for me, I think entrepreneurs, as people like Brian, they're creative. And for social entrepreneurs, they care a lot about a social issue. They're driven, and I think those are some of the aspects that we might describe ourselves as, and we might not necessarily say that we're entrepreneurs or anything, but I think those are some of the qualities that if you know someone like that, or you are finding yourself to be like that could definitely qualify you as somebody that might be ready to take that leap of faith. So lastly, we need your help with the survey that I mentioned before at the previous session. We have a website to make it easy for you guys. This Center for Community Transformation's website is cctfresno.org/feedback. So if you want to just pull that up on your phones, it's mobile friendly, so it'll take less than 5 minutes for you to just answer, less than 2 minutes to answer five quick questions. We're really happy with how this year has gone. There's been a lot of great content and a lot of great things have happened, and we want to just keep progressing, keep moving forward, and keep pushing social enterprise here in Fresno. So at this point, I'd like to hand the mic to Randy White, the director of the Center for Community Transformation, and have him give us our final word.
Thank you, Alex. All right, we're into the final 2 minutes here, folks. Thank you for sticking with us this afternoon, and I know it hasn't been hard, just some provocative ideas and creativity. It's been a great day. And I just want to say thank you to Alex Hussein and Miguel Bermudez, Austin Hussein, Andrew Shin and the School of Business, our sponsors, of course, Jeanette Gerena and the CCT staff, Carlos Huerta and Brenda Dominguez for helping us to make it happen. You go outside, you see all the vendors that were here today. Many of them were Spark Tank Award winners. I think Tagawa was there. I saw Lightwear. I saw Fishing for Life. I saw Moving On Up. Crumb and Get 'em was there, Aplos was there, YMI, Rockpile Yard Service from North Fresno Church, Tree of Life, Young Minds Matter. I know I'm forgetting somebody. Yell it out if I forgot somebody you saw out there. I don't want to miss anybody. But I think about all of that. I know the inspiration I'm feeling when I think through the last 4 years. It has been a remarkable journey. 5 years ago, this was not a category in Fresno. No one was talking about social enterprise, even though there were these amazing international models of social enterprise. In Fresno, sometimes it takes us a while. 4 years ago, we started the Work of Our Hands Summit. This year, we're pivoting with SoEnt to really appeal to students and emerging leaders to think about the possibility. When I think of where we've come from zero to there being 31 enterprises out there in just 4 short years, I think of what could happen here in Fresno. The fact that we have the second highest level of concentrated poverty of any large city in the U.S. should compel us. We need to cultivate creativity. And what we're seeing here is the emergence of hope. But hope has to be invested in. And I'm haunted by this thought. I don't know if you are. I'm haunted by the thought that If we just keep on doing what we've been doing in our city, if we just go on doing what we've always done without investing in innovative mechanisms for transformation, then we're just going to get more of what we've always gotten in our city. And we can't afford that. This isn't just the cool stuff happening. This is the mechanism that's providing the most hope for solving social problems in a way that's sustainable, in a way that breeds ownership and integrity. This isn't just the latest or the coolest or the newest. This is a strategy for actually moving the needle on poverty in our city. And we may be, you sitting in these pews may be at the front end of that movement, but I'm telling you, you are now part of history being written in Fresno as we move down this road. And I'm inviting you to move down this road together with us. We have not adequately dealt with the economic suffering of people in our region, the 75,000 of our neighbors who are unemployed. We have an undereducated workforce that cannot attract industry. And even more than that, we have the talents and passions of thousands of potential business owners, people who could be driving their own lives, but they're unable to get to the first rung of the ladder. If we want new outcomes, we have to try new things. And that's the invitation that we all have, to try new things. Many of us, we as people of faith and people of goodwill, have things that we haven't yet brought to the table to address our region's challenges. We have skills and knowledge and resources that we haven't yet seen as being related to the goal of our faith institutions, but they are. And so today, for the sake of our region, I ask you as students, as leaders, as faith institution leaders, community benefit organizations, as agency directors, I'm asking us all to venture out and try something new. If you don't know what to do, trust that someone in your congregation or your network does, and they have the knowledge and talent and connections to get going. It's a simple invitation to let's see what we can start this year. Start something new. And may God bless the innovation that's going to spring from SoEnt 17. Thank you very much for taking time with us today. And please do take the survey. We want to know how to do this better. And let's keep the movement going, okay? Thank you. We'll see you soon.